With the second pick in the 2012 NFL Draft, the Washington Redskins select Robert Griffin III, quarterback, Baylor.
Griffin inside the 10, Heisman touchdown! Wow, Robert Griffin III!
Throw opening is Garcon, and Pierre Garcon down the sideline, inbound, and all the way for a touchdown!
Pass is deflected by Kerrigan, intercepted by Kerrigan, and he's going to take it in for a touchdown! Pick from behind, hit by Arakpo. He runs it up and down a fumble, and the Redskins have it inside the 20. Pitches it to Halou to the left. Roy leapfrogs one man. He's off to the races. Roy Halou, goodbye, touchdown Redskins.
And what's up, everyone? You're listening to Son of Washington podcast here on sonofwashington.com. My name's Ray Smith, joined by Kyle Maddox. Kyle, man, kind of the long, terrible, dreadful off-season break, but we're back in action, getting ready for training camp on the countdown. How's it going, buddy?
Well, you know, I'm enjoying some baseball, some good Nationals baseball, but I'm ready for football. You know, I've since 2005, I've been waiting for the Nationals to finally start to come around. You know, and now that they are, it's like, well, we got RG3 now. We have some hope for once that we're actually going to do something. So now it's just like, the hell with baseball, bring on football.
You know, I tweeted something about 2 weeks ago when my wonderful Orioles began the slide that they've had this year, and I tweeted that, you know, can someone please let Dan Duquette know that the Orioles are supposed to keep my attention at least until training camp starts, and then they can kind of fade off into the wayside because it's not going to matter anymore. But man, all the things that are coming up, and you know, it's even the fact that it's the All-Star week right now, and the All-Star break. It's just my time clock has started ticking down to football season.
Right.
You know, I have a little ritual, and I know a lot of people will give me a hard time for it, but man, pretty much every July, once NCAA football gets released, that's the beginning of my countdown. You know, it's like, okay, NCAA football comes out in 2 weeks, training camp starts. A couple weeks after that, the preseason starts. You know, and then Madden hits at the preseason, and then a couple weeks after that, it's, you know, regular season football, and then we're good. And life is perfect. I love the fall weather, the smells of football season. All that is just kind of gearing up, man. And I'm jacked up, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm definitely ready to get back out, you know, hit the road at 8 a.m., tailgate, and see some Redskins football. It's been too long, you know.
Hopefully get some victories this year, a couple more than last year. We're going to talk about that. But, man, the excitement that's still surrounding this football team, even in the dead middle of absolutely no Redskins football news, it's amazing to me. Frankly, it's staggering how excited that fans have been, and even some of the excitement that we've seen and the positive stuff that we've seen from the media and the national media. I mean, even ESPN shows have been pretty nice to the Redskins. Now, they're not saying they're going to win it all, but to see this excitement is huge. And we've been talking to players who have been kind of preaching that excitement as well. And later on in the show, we're going to have Niles join us, and hopefully we'll hear a little bit from him about what he thinks about the next season that's coming up, and see if we can gauge some of that excitement that these guys have in the locker room. But, you know, as we've been preparing for camp to get started, the players are in an off time, and it's really a time for them to kind of relax and kick back and get their mind right for training camp to get going. Robert Griffin III has been all in the news because during his time off, he's been keeping up with the guys and keeping them under close wraps, and put together a little passing camp down in Texas. Kyle, what does this say to you to see a rookie quarterback come in, and even though he's been anointed the starter, to really embody that and kind of own this offense and own the huddle before he's even taken a snap at training camp?
No, I think it shows a lot. You know, we haven't had a quarterback here that's been a leader since, I can almost say I've been alive. I can't really recall any quarterback being a leader. And for him to come in not only as a quarterback but as a rookie, and just to, you know, take over and almost put everybody under his wing in a sense. I mean, it's surprising, but it's, you know, it's great to see. I mean, we haven't had leadership here in a long time, and it's about time it's begun to happen. You know, I mean, Mike Shanahan, not only has he found a great quarterback, but he's found a quarterback that knows how to be a leader too. I mean, Jason Campbell, probably not the greatest quarterback, had some talent, but his major problem was he could not lead. He could not take over the huddle, and it looks like that's exactly what Robert Griffin III is going to be doing.
You know, people killed guys like Clinton Portis for calling JC out, you know, on that kind of stuff. And it's something that I've always hoped that we could see is a quarterback that not only just has that leadership thing, because to be honest with you, I mean, John Beck tried last year. And you can't fault the guy. If there's one thing he could do, he could talk the talk, and he could try to rally everyone together. For him to try to put on all those players only camps during the lockout last year was huge. Leonard Hankerson talked to us last August and told us about the respect that Beck had earned because he did that kind of stuff. But to have a guy with a pedigree, well, I guess a college pedigree like Robert Griffin III has, to walk in as a superstar and then to be able to kind of organize all this stuff and earn the respect of these players, to me, it's something that I didn't expect to happen as quickly as it's happening. It's pretty impressive.
I mean, it's very impressive, the guy. I mean, he's just, in a sense, it's almost like he's a natural-born winner. You know, everything he touches turns to gold, basically. You know what I mean? It's almost shocking to where I can't even say anything about it because, you know, being a Redskins fan my whole life, I've really never seen anything like this before.
And you get a lot of guff for coming off as borderline cynical because of that. I mean, let's be honest. The questions that you've brought up about this team are always very truthful, and they're cutting, and people, it's hard for them to realize that sometimes. But as a fan of a team that's been so bad for so long, you know, to see this stuff, you know, unfolding before our eyes, there are times when I can't believe it, you know.
Right.
Even on watching the draft on draft night, I mean, we knew for months that RG3 was going to be likely, and we knew for at least 1 month that it was happening. And then even to see him walk across the stage and hold up that Redskins jersey, it was surreal. And then to be at the park when he was introduced to the DC media and had his introductory press conference and addressed the fans for the first time, it's surreal, because this is a guy who's a bona fide, legitimate superstar. He's won a Heisman Trophy. He's on the cover of NCAA football this year. You know, he's in the spotlight 24 hours a day. I mean, he's hanging out with Jay Leno. You know, there's pictures of him at Lakers games with Snoop Dogg or whoever it was. He's got star power, and hey, newsflash, the kid looks like he's going to be able to play. For me and for you, I think even it's easy to think, hey, pump the brakes. Let's not get our hopes up, because they're just going to get dashed into a million pieces again.
Well, you know, my whole deal is you know, prove me that you're the real deal. You know, I've sold myself short many times with this team. You know, every offseason we look great on paper, and then, you know, coming into the season, you know, maybe preseason's not so great, but it's still like, okay, yeah, we can still do good. And then, you know, we start off like 0-5, and it's just like, wow, here we go again. So I've always been, you know, kind of like, show me what you have, make me be a believer, or you know, earn my trust in a sense. And it's not that I don't want to be optimistic. It's just, you know, I've had my heart in a sense broken too many times with this team, you know, and but it's kind of hard trying to keep realistic, because I've been catching myself getting really hyped up over this team already. And, you know, I'm excited for football to be back, for one. I mean, let's face it. This is a football city. DC is not a hockey city. It's not a baseball city. It's a football city. And so I'm naturally going to be excited for football, but just knowing the Redskins actually have a coach that knows what he's doing, a GM that has common sense, and now a quarterback, along with the wide receivers, tight ends, defense, etc., that all are on the right page, know what they want to do, all have the same common goal, instead of just being all about, who cares if we win, we get our check and we can go party, you know, down in Georgetown later on. You know, these guys want to win. They want to get to the promised land and hopefully raise a Super Bowl trophy.
Speaking of a GM with common sense, how awesome was it to see Bruce take over for Peter King on Monday Morning Quarterback this week? Did you read this guy?
I heard about it, but I didn't read much into it.
It was pretty awesome. I mean, clearly he stayed pretty vanilla the whole time. Obviously, he didn't go out saying, you know, RG3's got the best arm I've ever seen, right, and, you know, this offense. I mean, if there's one thing that this organization is right now, it is the complete opposite of what it was under Vinny Serrato. I mean, Vinny Serrato, he would get on the radio and he would do everything he could Thursdays before game to pretty much lay out their entire freaking game plan.
Yeah.
Hey, well, the first 10 plays, this is what we're going to run. Yuck, 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 yuck. Just.
I was going to say, insert the Vinny Serrato.
Oh, God, that thing is just still haunts me. But Bruce isn't going to say anything. The one thing that he did say, it caught my attention. He did the 5 things I like, 5 things I don't like Peter does. And the very first thing he wrote on the 5 things I don't like was I don't like giving $36 million of our cap space to our competitors.
Right.
That was loved it, because if that wasn't a shot at the NFL and what's taking place with that, I don't know what is. And Bruce has been extremely borderline ballsy even on how he's handled this whole situation. The news broke that the team had been cut for this $36 million and that they were going to lose 18 of it this year. And Bruce Allen basically walked out and said, hey, we've not officially been informed of anything by the league right now. Our plan is to move on as scheduled, and if anyone has a problem with it, they know my number. Right. But to see that as a fan, it's awesome to see a legitimately run organization. It's awesome to see free agent moves that are justified. And, guys can say all they want to say about Pierre Garçon being overpaid. I don't remember who wrote that article. Someone wrote an article in the last week or so about, how Pierre Garçon is already being overpaid. He's not a number 1 wide receiver, and he's getting paid like he should be. Number 1, the dude's not taking a snap as a Redskin yet. How do you know what he's worth? I mean, can we legitimately sit here right now and say we overpaid for a guy? For all we know, he's going to put up 18 touchdowns this year, right?
I mean, I can kind of understand where they're coming from as far as the number 1 wide receiver, because I don't think he is a number 1. But as far as performance goes, yeah, I mean, with a quarterback like Griffin, I mean, that's going to, keep the defenses honest now. I mean, who knows? I mean, Pierre Garçon could put up 1,500 yards for all we know.
Yeah, and like you're just saying, the quarterback's going to make the difference. Clearly, with a guy like Rex Grossman, I could see that argument. If Rex was still the starting quarterback and he was a guy that this team was being built around, yeah, it's kind of hard to justify giving a whole lot of money to a receiver that's never been proven as a dominant guy a la Calvin Johnson. Pierre can play, though. And to have a quarterback that's going to be able to move around and shift the lanes a little bit and get on the ball, I think it's going to be huge, man. And I think that he's got the potential, and not just the potential for him individually, but the potential that he brings to this whole wide receiver core, this wide receiver group between him and Hankerson. And, the coaches are talking up Santana Moss right now in the slot. Kyle Shanahan called Santana an elite slot receiver in the league. He thinks that he can be one of the best. This wide receiver unit is going to have options. It's going to be really interesting to see how this whole thing plays out. And you've got to look back at guys like Bruce Allen and Mike Shanahan who have crafted this roster. And finally, Kyle, after 3 years, their fingerprints are on it, not the fingerprints of Joe Gibbs and worse, Jim Zorn. Buddy, I'm excited. There's just so much that's been happening. It's great to see these good vibes and the good feelings. Kevin Durant, even during the NBA playoffs and championship, rocking the Redskins gear more than even the Thunder gear. It's like the Redskins are like cool again, and I've not seen that since I was 5 years old.
I mean, I was at the grocery store the other week. This random guy comes walking down the aisle, just smiling at me, and I'm thinking, do I know the guy from like high school or something? Because the guy doesn't look familiar, so I just turned my head away, figuring maybe he's a little crazy. He comes up, oh hey, how's it going? Shakes my hand, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm a Giants fan, but the Redskins, they're RG3, they're looking really good, blah blah blah, and then he goes on about how much are tickets, where are good seats, because I want to come to the Redskins home opener just to see him play. I mean, besides opposing fans wanting to come to our stadium knowing that they're just going to beat the living hell out of us the last couple of years, here's an opposing fan wanting to come now because he wants to see our quarterback play. He wants to see our team play. I've never seen that in my entire life.
I've not seen a guy that I could say, you know what, irregardless of whether it was the Redskins or not, I'd pay to go see this guy watch.
Right.
Or to go see this guy play. To be honest with you, when we were talking a couple years ago when Peyton Manning came into town, I remember talking to my dad, and my dad said, you know, I love the Redskins, man, but I got to tell you, just getting to watch Peyton Manning play would be worth admission to the game.
Right.
And the Redskins haven't had the guy. They've not had the guy that's worth the cost of admission at the quarterback position. I mean, you could argue that Clinton Portis in 2005 was worth the cost of admission. You could probably argue that Clinton Portis in 2008 for the first half of the season.
Oh, he definitely was
worth admission. Sean Taylor is a guy that comes to mind that was worth the cost of admission. But we've been fed a steady diet of Albert Haynesworths that are supposed to be worth the cost of admission, and there they are planking in the middle of the field.
Right.
You know, so to have a guy like Griffin come in that is going to bring in not just Redskins fans, but fans of other teams that want to just come and see the kid play, it's going to be pretty interesting to see those party decks rocking this year come September.
Well, I mean, speaking of the game in 2008 with Clinton Portis that you're speaking about, you know, back then when, you know, that's possibly one of the people that fans wanted to come see. I mean, I remember, you know, he was injured for the one game or a couple games in a row with, I think he had the bone splitters, and he comes out against the Dallas Cowboys. I think they activated him like, you know, a minute before the deadline was or something along that line. He comes out on the field, you know, running around doing his typical warm-ups and just goes along the Dallas Cowboys sideline just trash-talking them, and the whole stadium is just erupting. And I know week one, or I guess it's week 3, against the Bengals when we play them, I'm sure the stadium's going to be like that. But I'm almost as curious as to see what this week 3 and preseason is going to be like when we have Luck versus Griffin, because you cannot tell me these two are not going to be battling like it's a real game. It's not going to be a preseason game. Those guys are going to go, you know, all out to prove each other wrong. And I'm seriously thinking that this is probably going to be one of the first times, if the first time ever, that a Redskins preseason game is going to be sold out because there's that much anticipation for Robert Griffin.
I got to be honest with you, and maybe I'm going on a limb here. Maybe I've drank a little bit too much burgundy and gold Kool-Aid over the last couple weeks. But if all things being equal and the Redskins had the number 1 pick and they could choose between Luck and Griffin, I honestly believe they would have taken Griffin.
Well,
it's just everything I've seen from Shanahan, the way that they interacted with the kid, the things that they want to be able to do with him in this offense. You know, leading up to RG3's workout in Baylor, which really, what was the point of any other team in the NFL going out to that combine? I mean, really, for his private workout that he put together. You know, the Redskins are partying with RG3 at Hooters the night before, you know, private rooms. We got fans that are talking about what that whole night was like. He was their guy, and you've got to believe that Andrew Luck is going to come into D.C. week 3 of the preseason and say and prove this team wrong, because RG3 has been the story of this offseason,
right,
not Andrew Luck.
And
Andrew Luck was the first pick.
And I almost feel bad for Luck because he is a phenomenal player. He's a great player, but you know, first time for the Heisman, it's Cam Newton. The second time it's Griffin. It's like he's just never gotten his due. So he does have a huge chip on his shoulder. There's no doubt about it.
And you got to wonder how the guy's going to react to it. It's funny. I listened to a lot of serious NFL radio, and he was on the other week. They were doing like a Colts OTAs. They were broadcasting from there, and Colby Fleener was on, and they were talking to Luck, and Luck was saying, you know, it's been killing me to not be able to be out with these guys yet, and I'm watching on ESPN all these other members of the rookie class who are already getting working with their team, and I can't because I've not graduated yet, and I feel like I'm behind the ball. I mean, literally, in my mind, it was almost as if he was saying, it kills me to watch RG3 already getting working with the Redskins. You know what I mean? It kills me to see what these guys are doing and all this spotlight that's been pointed towards them, and I'm the number 1 pick. I got to wonder if that chip is going to be too big and if it could hurt him rather than help him.
I mean, you just don't know. In a sense of a way, I mean, I'm almost worried about Griffin in the same way with all the hype he's getting and stuff. He's almost set up to fail. I mean, the bar is set so high for him that even a tremendous season is almost not going to cut it.
Yeah, and I don't want to say the cliche things like, but this time it's different.
Right.
I don't want to say that, but this time it seems like it's different.
It really does.
It really does. I mean, to see the guy going on Twitter and tweeting to teammates, I mean, and some fans are would probably say, well, the team's got them doing this, or it's a publicity stunt, or it is whatever it is. But to see the guy go on and say, hey, go to Ryan Kerrigan and Arakpo and Garcon and Josh Morgan and Niles Paul and all these guys are on Twitter and basically publicly calling them out and saying, this is why I do this. What is your reason why? Find your why. Why do I need to trust you, right, Niles Paul? Why do I trust you, Pierre Garcon? Tell me publicly in front of the millions of people and every ESPN person is following RG3's right. Twitter. Everyone has RG3 set his Twitter account up and with like an hour had like 40,000
Oh yeah,
followers.
every 5 minutes there's like another 10,000 people following him. It was insane.
Everything he says is cross-examined, and for him to not come out and be like, yeah, I'm the best in the world, for him to come out and say, all right, teammates, you guys tell me why we're going to be the best this season, and publicly commit, go on record and say why you care about this football team, man, I've not seen anything like that before.
Confirmed.
Well, I mean, really, you've got to wonder what that does to the players. You've got to wonder if these guys have the same adoration and respect for him that we do, or if it's just, another guy saying another thing.
Right.
Is this legitimate? Is it for real? So I'm really interested to see what Niles Paul's got to say. Right. We're going to ask him about RG3, see what he's thought so far. Niles is going to be joining us in the next segment. So, guys, we appreciate you checking us out. Make sure you stick around. All sorts of great stuff. We've got questions lined up for Niles that are pretty interesting. We'll see what he thinks about the comparisons that he's been drawing to Shannon Sharp. Kyle, I'm sure you can throw in a couple jabs for him, right?
No, I'm sure.
You got a couple things for him. So stick with us. We got Niles Paul coming up in the next segment. You're listening to Son of Washington podcast here on Son of Washington.
Shining oil, this night is dripping down.
And welcome back, you guys. We're listening to the Son of Washington podcast here on sonofwashington.com. Guys, man, big show for you tonight. We're so excited. We're getting ready for this countdown to training camp. We're getting close to rookies reporting, and man, just before you know, Kyle, the veterans are going to be back at the park, and it's going to be time to be getting ready for preseason football, man.
There's a lot to talk about finally.
Well, on the line with us, we're so excited and happy to have him with us. A guy that's getting ready for camp for his second year, not wide receiver anymore, tight end now for the Washington Redskins, Niles Paul. Niles, thanks so much for joining us tonight, man.
Pleasure to be on the show, man. Pleasure to be on the show.
Man, how's your summer break going for you, buddy?
It's going pretty good. At first, since I was fairly new to it all, when it came to like the off season, I didn't know what to do. I was like, I need to go train somewhere. I need to stay in shape. So I was like, in a frenzy, just trying to get back home and train. But I stayed out in DC and I'm training with a bunch of the fellas on the team, and we're getting some good work in every day.
Well, I got to tell you, man, as someone who's been a huge fan of this team for a long time, and I know that Kyle can confirm this, I don't remember an off-season where we've had quite this much excitement. And I know that every off-season people are talking about the exciting things that are happening in D.C. and, are these pieces going to work and is that going to work? What I'm really interested in is seeing is what kind of team chemistry are you guys putting together, not just from what we saw during the OTAs and stuff like that. But with so much change that's happened, even in this off-season time, and you're trying to get down and away from football, but is there still that connection that some of these guys are making? And you said you're working out. Is that really where that team chemistry is coming together?
Yeah, I mean, it's, I didn't really know what it was like last year because with the lockout and everything, and I was just kind of thrown into the fire with the guys. But, we're at a place where we got the young guys who came in, the rookies, feeling extremely comfortable with the team, and there's just going to be a lot of competition going into camp, and I'm excited for it.
So, obviously, you're in your second year now, and you hit a little bit on the fact that this is a little bit of a different off-season because there actually is an off-season for you guys this year. We talked to Leonard Hankerson last year, one of your rookie classmates from last year's draft, who said that missing OTAs and all of the junk that happened because of the lockout, he really felt like it was devastating to him. Because to him, as a guy who's been in college ball, you always have spring ball to kind of get yourself together and to prepare for what's coming up. But as a rookie, to go from jumping from the draft into right into it, that's got to be pretty crazy. You didn't experience that, but now you're seeing it with the young guys. Talk a little bit about the difference that you've seen in some of this year's rookies and the things that they've had to face and the burnout that they might see that you didn't necessarily see last year.
I think it's a lot. It's beneficial for them because they're learning the playbook, and I'm even though I'm a tight end now, I still watch the wide receivers, and I still watch how they pick up on the offense. And the younger guys are being able. You see, as OTAs, they got more and more comfortable, in the system and running the plays and not having to look back and ask coach what to do. Whereas last year, me and Hank and Al were like in the fire and just like out there with very limited reps, trying to figure out what we had to do and trying to make the most out of the reps we had because at the end of the day we still didn't really know what we were doing out there, and it took us a couple games into the season just to get that down.
Yeah, Hankerson talked to us a lot about that and said just the ability to have to think about things versus the ability to just kind of go out and perform, or for it to be second nature, is a huge difference. And, one thing that Redskins fans have begged for years and years and years is consistency. And to be able to have a core group of guys on the offensive side of the ball that can work year in and year out on the same things and build cohesion, is that something that fans have dreamed up as a pipe dream, or is that something that you guys strive for, something that's important to you guys to feel like you can count on the guys that are there? It's the same guys year in and year out, and everyone is kind of coming on that same page and is out together as a team.
Yeah, I mean, it's unrealistic to think, you're going to have the same guys back every year. But you just hope that when new guys come in, everybody can come in on the same page and have the same mentality that, we are a team and we all come from different places and we all, are striving for that one goal, and that's to win a Super Bowl. And just this off season, just kind of showed me you get a whole bunch of group of guys together, and everybody's just out there from a veteran to the London Fletchers to the rookies. They out there just working, trying to get better, trying to just competing every day. And you clearly seen that in OTAs. Well, I experienced it in OTAs and throughout the summer off season program.
Man, I got to tell you, in watching the OTAs this year, and for us, this is the first year that we've actually been credentialed to be out there and keep a close eye on what you guys are doing. But to see the work that you guys have been putting together, it's been interesting to see some things that we've not got to see before. But one of the things that stood out to me is at least as far as you running the routes and kind of getting the receiving part of tight end down, it seems like it's been a pretty easy transition for you. Is that correct to say, or are you just making it look easier than it really is?
No, it's been a pretty easy transition for me thus far, and that's just, we haven't actually put on pads yet, and we haven't had to go against Ryan or Rack in full pads in practice yet. So that's in the sense of the passing game. It all comes easy because it's just in my mind I'm still a receiver. I'm just out there in a tighter position. As a tight end in this offense, you're basically a wide receiver when it comes to running routes. The concepts is called, and you just have to know what you have to do. I think as a tight end, you got to know the whole concept because any little thing can change. And I feel like as last year I built a confidence up as the year went on with just learning and knowing the playbook that, I came in comfortable enough to pick up on the passing game a lot easier. Me and Sean was just talking, Coach was just talking about this and how the first day I was looking at this stuff and I was like, y'all want me to block these dudes? And they, everybody kind of laughed in the room and I had, Chris Cooley and Fred Davis in there and Logan Paulson, like, just kind of reassuring me that you can do this. Like, this isn't as hard as it looks. Like, in our offense, it's a lot of zone stuff, and, it's just you got to get to your zone. You got to hold your zone. You got to protect the running backs. You got to protect the QB. He said it's not all about trying to be stronger than somebody. It's about being, smarter, trying to out-technique somebody.
One of the biggest things that people who have questioned your move to tight end has been the blocking, and to hear you say that in the zone blocking scheme, there are different ways to get around it. But man, after watching some of those special teams hits that you laid on people last year, I have zero concerns with your hitting ability or with your blocking ability or really with your lack of fear to go up against these big guys. One of the huge things that's been a story to me about this whole transition from you is not just the fact that you've got the versatility to convert from wide receiver to tight end, but what's it like for you to have a coach like Mike Shanahan who looks at an offense who really has a lot of wide receivers after some of the moves that the guys you added this year, not only with the draft, but with guys like Pierre coming in free agency and Josh Morgan coming in. And then even a guy like Aldrick Robinson, who came in with you guys last year and has kind of worked his way up from the practice squad. What does it mean to you to have a coach that looks at a position and says, I see the ability for this player to not just be a wide receiver, but I believe we can use him at tight end and we can get him playing time and he can make an impact on a team. What does that say to a guy like you to know that you've got a coach that's willing to try to get you on the field no matter what it takes?
Honestly, it lets me know the respect that Coach Shanahan has for me, and I appreciate him and what he's doing for me here. And he's basically just trying to find me a home. He told me that at the end of the day, I can still play wide receiver. So if tight end didn't work out, I could play wide receiver. But tight end been going so well that hasn't been a problem at all. And it's just on me picking up the whole concept of running and blocking. And I guess I can't stress enough about it. Just I appreciate this opportunity I've been given.
Now you're playing tight end now, obviously, which is going to be much like kind of how they run it up in New England, similar, at least in my opinion. But have you ever been discussed as being the returner? Because I remember last season against Tampa Bay in the preseason, Brandon Banks is running back for the touchdown, and you come from about 40 yards back and are at least side by side next to him as he's crossing the goal line.
Yeah. Me, I mess with Banks about that play all the time because he tried like he didn't see me. But I was a returner at Nebraska, and even Coach Shanahan talked to me about that. He said I'll be a tight end, but I can return, I can do whatever. So just given the opportunity, like I'll still maintain my role as the off returner, as of this year, because that's what I've been doing, and that's what Danny wants me at. And if I get the opportunity to return kicks, I'll gladly take it.
Now, in your second year and this whole transition, to me, I wrote an article for the site a couple of months back, and I took some heat at first because I don't think people saw some of the same things that I saw. But as we've gotten through OTAs, people are starting to come around a little bit. But, Mike Shanahan once coached a wide receiver who had a very similar body build to you, very similar 40 time to you. And that wide receiver also made transition to tight end. That guy went on to be a Hall of Fame and one of the greatest that we've seen in Shannon Sharpe. Is it unfair for us to wonder if that's kind of the mold that you're going down? Are you hoping that that's the road that you're going down? And then to follow that up, you spent some time with Shannon, I believe, here in the last couple of weeks. Talk a little bit about that and how that's helped with the transition.
I think it's real optimistic, but, in my opinion, I feel like I'm flattered by the comparison, but it is a little unfair because this is Shannon Sharpe, and I am still, just I haven't even played my first down yet at tight end. Not preseason, not in the regular season, but just being able to sit down with Shannon and talk to him about his transition and what he went through and what was the biggest thing for him and what he had to adjust to, kind of gave me a lot of hope of just knowing that, kind of reassure me that I can do this. Like this isn't, as big a big deal as I was making it seem. Like I have the build, I have the mentality. I can play tight end in the NFL, and that's in my mind. That's where I'm at. Like there's no questioning myself anymore. I can go out here and block these guys, and I can go out here and run routes. That's just how I feel.
So you've got that going for you, and I've not heard a whole lot of people. I've talked to a bunch of guys in the media in the DC area, and when we're standing on the sidelines, it's really easy for us to point out, oh well, this ball should have been picked up by this guy, or this block should have been made when we're not the ones out there with the pads on, right? But to see the transition that's been made, and to see just the competition that there is at almost every position on this roster now, and to see you right in the mix of things with tight end. The day that we were out there, you were getting a lot of work with the first team. What's that like to have guys like Fred Davis and then Chris Cooley, who is absolutely adored by the fan base here, to really be in the thick of competition with those guys, and possibly that being the 3 tight ends this year, and then a great guy in Logan too. I mean, talk about what that competition can do for you individually and for this team as well.
I think it's a great competition for the team, and with those 3 guys, just being in the room with them, I just you feel the camaraderie between us, and I'm enjoying every moment of it. And I'm picking Logan's brain, I'm picking Chris's brain, I'm picking Fred's brain about what they're thinking on this play and what they're doing on this play, and I'm learning a lot, and they're helping me out a lot. It's not like anybody is holding any grudges against each other. Like we all know that this is a business, and we're all training to be the final 3 or 4 tight ends at the end of the year. I mean, at the beginning of the season. So it's enjoyable for me because it's not like I'm in an uncomfortable environment. Like these guys have welcomed me with open arms, and they're teaching me little tips and tricks while I'm out there. So it's helping me get along in this process.
Now, at Nebraska, you're a really talented wide receiver. I'm not a big, huge college football fan, but I watched a few Nebraska games and saw you. And, of course, as we drafted you, I followed up with some tape and everything. And, even with the Redskins in preseason and the couple of games you played in, you've shown that you can be, a pretty good threat. Now, this season, what's a realistic goal for you guys? What you plan on achieving this season?
I just want to make some plays for the Redskins, man. And I'm talking when I'm in plays, I want to make some offensive plays and win a lot more games. Like I want to go to the playoffs. Like that. My goals are more of team oriented goals, and obviously like I want to make plays. I want to be involved. I want to make Coach Shanahan right for his decision. I don't want to let him down. Like I want to prove to everybody that this was the right decision that he made, and that's my goal for the season.
Clearly, there's been just a ton of stuff, and we're going to get ready to let you run now, as we really appreciate you being on with us. But there's been a lot of change that's come to this team, and with the changes that's come to this team in the offseason, there's been just a ton of excitement. I can't remember a time since I was literally about 5 or 6 years old watching the 91 Super Bowl team where there was this much Redskins hysteria. I mean, everywhere you look right now, you've got RG3 that's going on TV shows, on late night shows, and basketball players are wearing Redskins hats, on draft day and all this kind of crazy stuff. And through the finals, they're wearing Redskins gear. People are genuinely excited. Last year, there was a lot of questions about the quarterback position. this year it looks like we finally have a franchise guy in Robert Griffin. But Mike Shanahan has gone on and on and on about the diversity that this offensive unit has, with a guy like RG3 who is a threat running the ball. He's a threat throwing the ball. He really keeps defenses on his heels. And without me trying to let too much out, or you letting too much out about some of the stuff you guys have been doing in the schemes, on the stuff that's been open to the media, we saw play formations where you might line up at tight end and then kind of split out or go into the slot, or receivers are kind of moving in and out and all over the place. Is this playbook really going to be opened up this year compared to last year? Does adding a guy like RG3 and the versatility of the tight end / wide receivers and running backs that you guys have, what is that going to do for Kyle Shanahan and for Mike Shanahan as they're game planning? Should we expect to see a different look in the offense this year versus what we saw last year?
Oh, definitely. I think the offense is definitely taking a different road this year, and I mean, kind of really still being the same offense, just with different aspects, as in playmakers on the field. And we have a lot of diversity when it comes to like speed and just power out there. And I'm excited because just from OTAs you see our offense just kind of progressing from day one to what it is now. We're still progressing, and you get an RG3 who in my opinion, just from watching OTAs, has lived up to everything he was hyped up to be. And I'm excited to play alongside this guy, and I can't wait for preseason and game one.
Now, did you go out to Texas with him and work out with the guys?
I didn't go out to Texas with them because I had prior engagements that I had to attend to with my family.
Gotcha. Well, in any case, to see a rookie kind of come in and take control, I mean, that's got to mean something to you guys, right? To see that he's going the extra step. I know last year Hank told us that to see John Beck kind of calling everyone and trying to organize and bring everyone together for the team-led activities last year earned him a lot of respect. For a rookie like Griffin, does that earn him respect to be organizing stuff like this in the time that you guys are really have the only vacation you have for the year?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Robert has come in and he's taken on a role that, a lot of rookies don't get to take on, and I think he's doing it so well that, he's not doing too much, but he's still being humble about the whole thing, but he's showing and he's stepping up and he's gradually becoming, one of the leaders of this team. And that's just something that you want out to a quarterback. And it always is something you want out to a quarterback. And I'm impressed with the guy, and just the fact that he's reaching out to everybody, and he continues to check on me all the time. Like, what you doing? You training? And I'm just like, yeah, I'm up here doing work in DC. And he said, good job. It's just like, I'm like, okay, well, this is he's my quarterback, but he's still a rookie, and he's doing this, and he's kind of stepping up and being this leader that everybody wants him to be, and I respect him, man, for it.
Even to the point where he's kind of taken to Twitter with this whole know your why thing over the last couple of days. We've been kind of keeping an eye on the interaction between you guys and him, and to me, it's easy to forget that the guy's a rookie. When you see this kind of stuff. So we as fans and as media getting to cover the team, we are so excited about what you guys are going to be able to do and hopefully bring a winning tradition. But, before we let you go, one last thing. Give us and give the fans kind of a fun look, a backstage look at what you guys do, through camp and through OTAs, how you guys keep it loose. There's got to be some kind of a story, whether it's like hazing that you guys have planned for these rookies or hazing that you guys kind of went through, or just kind of a fun memory that you can give us behind the scenes, something that makes it all worth laboring through the hot months of July and August.
Well, the thing is that about this organization that I feel is so different than what I've heard stories from other rookies that I know. Just my experience last year is that the respect that the older guys here had for you, even so you being a rookie, like I didn't get hazed. I didn't have to do a whole bunch of stuff. I didn't I was never like. I realized that's part of your licks as a rookie, but I never had to go through any of that. Me, nor Hank, nor Al. Speaking on the offensive ball, I don't know what the defensive guys had to do. I'm sure they had. DJ Gomes being one of my good friends up here, I know for a fact they had to do some stuff. But it's like they respect you on the offense side at least. They respected me enough to just was like, you come in, you work hard, you do your thing, we're gonna leave you alone, and that's what it was. And I'm just, I just excited about this whole season coming up, man. I don't think people understand how excited the players are about the season coming up.
Well, I can tell you, man, we're excited. We've talked to a couple guys and a couple of the rookies this year that have let us know that they're really excited about what's coming up, man, and just to see the progress and the steps this team has taken. We really wish you all the best this season, man. We hope that you have just an incredible year. We hope that your transition is easy. Make sure you keep Shannon Sharp on speed dial, man.
All right.
Keep up with him and find out what we can do, because it would be awesome for us to be able to see you follow in that footsteps and kind of take through that. And obviously, not to try to compare you unfairly, but we just hope all the best for you, man. And we really appreciate you taking the time to spend some time with us during your time off. And man, hope you have a great camp.
All right, thank you very much, man.
All right, man. Guys, you've been listening to Niles Paul, tight end for the Washington Redskins. Obviously, a ton of excitement leading into camp. We got a lot more good stuff coming from you here in the third segment, so stick with us. This is Son of Washington Podcast here on sonofwashington.com. All right, guys, welcome back. You're listening to Son of Washington Podcast here on sonofwashington.com. Man, great stuff with Niles Paul. Really, really interesting to hear him talk about the comparisons that they've made, that myself even has made between him and Shannon Sharp, and kind of the role that Shannon is already playing in him with the transition to tight end. Kyle, to me, the thing that stood out more than anything is how genuinely excited he seems to be playing with a guy like Robert Griffin III. But I guess if you've been, your rookie season, you were stuck with John Beck and Rex Grossman, you'd be pretty excited for a guy like RG3 too, right?
Well, assuming he's going to come out and shine like he did at Baylor, absolutely. Hey, man,
according to my NCAA football, RG3 is a member of the Maryland Terrapins.
How dare you disrespect C.J. Brown?
Well, for the last segment to wrap this thing up tonight, we got a good friend of the show. We got Jay Steele on with us from over at HTTR247.com. Jay, what's going on, buddy? How's it going, man?
Hey, what's up, man? Hey, you playing on that NCAA too?
I am playing NCAA. I had the pre-release over the weekend. Got finally downloaded on Saturday night, I believe that it was, or Sunday night when I finally got it to work. And I wanted to mess with this Heisman mode, and I noticed that you could change the teams that the player was on. And at first, I was like, that's retarded. And then I thought, man, that's kind of fun. So I got RG3 running around in the Maryland Pride uniforms.
Well done.
Dominating everybody. That's funny. During the home run derby last night, Kyle, I think you saw that commercial that they have for NCAA football.
Yes.
Oh my
State one.
God,
Great.
It is hysterical. Jay, I don't know if you saw this.
Yeah.
They have the Ohio State family.
Yeah. Dad
oh my God.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
What you know what's funny? I lived in Columbus for 4 years when I was in college, and that's how it is there. I mean, there is zero exaggeration to that. Those people are nuts for the Buckeyes. You think that we're big Redskins fans? Those guys don't even care about pro football down there. Well, I guess I wouldn't if Cleveland was supposed to be my team. But, man, they are Buckeye crazy. I once witnessed a kid on campus get the life beat out of him because he was wearing a blue T-shirt that resembled Michigan blue. It wasn't even a Michigan T-shirt. It was like a surfer T-shirt, but it was Michigan colors. And all these Ohio State kids jumped them. The place is nuts. So, in other news, back to the Redskins. And my video game rants aside, Jay, what's going on, man? You getting excited for camp right around the corner?
Man, that thing can't come fast enough. It is dead time.
Oh, God, I hate it.
I've been catching up on a lot of sleep,
Kyle, don't lie, Kyle. We both know that Kyle don't sleep.
That's right, man. I get on these caffeine. That Mountain Dew drives me nuts, man. I get jacked up on that stuff. It's like cocaine to a cocaine addict.
I wake up at 5:30 and 6 o'clock in the morning to go to work. I wake up to text messages from Kyle. I'm like, are you just waking up, or are you still awake from last night? Kyle's still awake from the night before. Oh,
hey, that's when I write my articles, though, man. That's when I get my inspiration. It's dead quiet. I get some time to think, and I go all out. And then I get all the haters on me because they don't like what I have to say.
Well, let's see what you got to say about the next couple topics. So we're getting to the wind down point, and rookies are going to be reporting here in the next 10 days or so, and then veterans are shortly behind. So this is truly, I'm not bored anymore because this is the calm before the storm. This is the last couple of days that we're going to be able to breathe. But a little bit of news that's been kind of coming out is focusing on the draft that's coming up, the supplemental draft. Redskins have not always been super active in the sub draft, but it's kind of interesting with this kid from Baylor. Jay, you were talking to us a little bit about this. What's your opinion? Not necessarily what you know, but what's your opinion of this kid? Is this a guy we should be giving a look at, or how's this shaking down?
I would definitely. You at least have to take a flyer on him, just because he did play with RG3. You would have to think, as we had talked about before, RG3 has always campaigned for his guy. His guys. Kid's a monster. He's about 6'4". He's well over 220. I heard he's got huge hands. So
4.5 40 too, right?
Yeah, and I believe he ran it once, and then he hurt his quad, so he didn't run it again. But he did the rest of his workout, and then apparently he caught them all clean, no drops.
I would be worried about injuries during a workout if this were the regular draft, but in the supplemental draft, man, throw like a 6th or 7th round bid on this kid, see what happens. That's my opinion. It never hurts. And the last guy that we took in the supplemental draft, we turned him into a 900-yard receiver for a season, even though it was a rental. I mean, you get what you can take when you've got a front office like Bruce Allen and the Redskins. But you talked about RG3 always pushing for his guy, and he's always been this big team guy. We had heard that he was not going to do private workouts for teams because he wanted scouts to come to Baylor and get exposure for his teammates. Kyle, I've got to wonder, is RG3 in Shanahan's ear because there's a little bit of familiarity with this kid? And secondly, Kyle, is there even a spot for another wide receiver on this roster right now?
Well, I mean, I think every time you have a player that play with another player at college or another team, they're always going to, be in their ear, giving them a little input because they know everything about them. And the coaches, if they are interested in them or at least, have looked at them a bit, they know that so-and-so has played with them, so they're going to know the inside scoop. Are they really worth, the trouble or picks and whatnot to go through? Shanahan's all about competition. We always have room for somebody to come in during training camp. And as far as wide receivers go, I think you would have to look at it. I think you could, if he's just as good as Armstrong or just as fast, you could possibly replace Armstrong. He didn't have a great season last year. Throw him out there in camp, see what he does, see who wins, basically.
Yeah, but when you do something like the supplemental draft, and Jay, is 6th or 7th round even legitimate on this guy? The Browns have been talking about, like a 2nd or a 3rd round pick that they're willing to bid? That's kind of crazy for the supplemental draft.
Yeah, I think someone, you could see a 3 fly out there for him unless someone really gets desperate and throws that 2nd. But just with his size and his speed, I think the guy has a freakish, 82-inch wingspan or something like that. He has the size to do it. You could see Dallas jump somewhere. I wouldn't be too surprised if we maybe threw a 5th out there because they have the extra 5. It'd be something to keep an eye on. But there's interest. But then again, when you asked, I don't think he would contribute this year. He's pretty raw. it might be a thing where they stash him or something like that. I don't see him.
Yeah, but you can't stash a sup pick, right? I mean,
no, you can't stash him, but then you would have to say, do you push? Do you create an extra roster spot for him? Would you push out Robinson? Do you push out Armstrong? Or
he'd be pushing out Brandon Banks because he's making this team, right? I mean, as of right now, conventional wisdom is Brandon Banks is going to be on the roster, according to everyone that I've talked to over the course of the last 3 weeks.
If you keep about 6 receivers, I don't see how you can include Banks into that. Another thing, Shanny's not going to hold on to another special teams guy. That guy was on the bubble last year until he broke that one in Tampa Bay. And there's another. He reminds me of another NFL player that used to play for us. I'm not going to shout out his name, but he liked to reference McDonald sometimes. He's strong on Twitter, which makes me kind of cringe because does that mean you're putting in the work that you can be putting in instead of being on Twitter all crazy?
Yeah, we've talked to guys that have said straight up, we're not coming on. I mean, Alfred Morris flat out told us on Memorial Day weekend, I would rather talk to you on Memorial Day weekend because come Monday through Friday, I'm working, So, yeah, it's kind of interesting to see that. But we were just talking to Niles Paul last segment before you came on, and he told us that Shanahan's still talking about using him as a possible returner, that he would not lose that returning tag just because he was making the transition to tight end, that he was able to return in college, and they want to see if he can return here. So, and then you've got guys like Aldrick Robinson. I got to be honest, I'd keep a guy like Anthony Armstrong all day long over Brandon Banks.
Yeah, I mean, you said something interesting there. I don't know. I think Booster, I think we looked at that before. I'm not sure if you've seen that one, but if you pull that up on YouTube, pull up Banks's touchdown return versus Tampa Bay.
We talked to Niles about that specific play. We asked Niles about it. Yeah, Niles said I give Brandon junk about it all the time because he says that Banks tries to say that he didn't know that Niles was running up on him, but Niles said I called him. So, I've never seen a tight end / returner before. To be honest with you.
Yeah, he definitely has the speed. It'd be interesting because he's a beast on special teams. Just from the Rams games, he'll try to take someone's head off. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see Armstrong get some touches and Aldrick Robinson. So,
and people,
a lot of options.
People have dissected Anthony Armstrong to death. I mean, and last year, the guy got killed for having a down season. But when you look at Armstrong's game, Armstrong was more of a deep threat, and McNabb could hit him as a deep threat. Rex doesn't have a very good deep ball, So if Armstrong's streaking down the field wide open, there's no guarantee that Rex could have got it there anyway. And I just never really felt like Rex had any type of a connection with Armstrong. You could tell that he had the connection with Jabbar. You could tell there was comfort with Jabbar. You could tell even when Moss was there that he trusted Moss a little bit. Not as much as what he did with Jabbar, but I never felt like Anthony had that connection with a guy like Rex. But RG3's game is different, and I think that RG3's game at quarterback is going to be suited to have a guy like Anthony streaking down the field. So, we've seen it all year long. I mean, people are talking about this great arm of RG3. You could look at Anthony Armstrong as a comeback player this year, specifically because he's got a quarterback that can get him the ball downfield.
I agree with you. I mean, even speaking to Anthony, he's good. They line him up in that one spot and catch somebody with a play-action fake with his speed downfield, getting behind a defender. That can be deadly.
And then you've got guys like Aldrick. Aldrick's got some downfield speed too, right?
Oh, yeah. That as you know, we are high on that guy. Everybody's watching him. He almost got claimed, pulled off our things, so we had to pull him up on the regular the roster. Yeah, he's making strides. I think the wide receiver battle this offseason is going to be really worth watching.
Yeah, it's funny last season because last season I was throwing Aldrick Robinson's name out there over and over. Like, they need to keep this guy on the team. He's fast, return threat, wide receiver threat, whatever. They can do something with him. And everybody calls me crazy and this and that. And I'm telling you, the guy is fast.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody was tough on it. They had the lockout, so the rookies were behind. And look how it did take Hankerson a while to get it. So, Aldrick was just behind the 8 ball a little bit, but he started getting it. And then I think everybody overreacted a little bit when we did pull him up to the active roster there for the last game. I think everybody thought he was going to start or something. It was just more of a thing to protect him. But he's really getting it down. He's working on his route running. Like I said, I just think the whole receiver thing is going to be a nice battle.
Well, he's been putting in extra work. I mean, he was there at rookie camp. I mean, Aldrick was on the rookie training camp or the rookie camp roster. He was there working with Griffin. Clearly looked a little bit more polished because he'd had a year under his belt than the rookies that were there. But that intrigued me to see that he did come out to put in the extra work to start to get some of that with RG3. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Aldrick went down to Texas with Griffin too, correct?
Yeah.
He got invited down to Texas and was down there working with them. So this is a guy that could really be, something that we've not seen before. I mean, this guy could be the wild card of this receiver battle.
Can I say, I know you're talking about Aldrick. When you brought that up, though, the name that surprised me the most that I saw down there was Moss. That guy is just he's not known for that.
He don't go out of Miami.
Yeah, it just really took me back that he was down there.
I think Shanahan got to him. I mean, Shanahan said, we told Santana that he's got to have a renewed kind of focus. And so far, he's had that. I mean, he's doing everything he can. He's come in supposedly in better shape. Kyle Shanahan even referred to the guy as being possibly one of the elite slot receivers in the NFL. And we talked about this with you on the show before, Jay. That is a 180-degree turn from what we expected the Santana Moss situation to be a few weeks ago.
Yeah, he was an Eddie Royal away from not even being talked about.
Kyle, you got to wonder, for a guy like Santana, to see how close the Redskins were to signing a guy like Royal, and to know that this has been your team as far as wide receivers go. I mean, Santana has been the guy since he got here in 2005. And then all of a sudden, the position that you're expected to play at slot receiver, the team's got a guy who's only ever been a slot receiver, and they're out at Morton's trying to recruit him. Is that enough to kind of straighten you up, or is it deeper than that?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure sometimes they're going to throw a little threat in that maybe they're not appreciated enough, but at the same time, you have to realize that, or as in a guy like Santana Moss, unfortunately, you are getting older, and you're only going to be able to be around so much longer, and it's going to push you, and you're going to have to get in shape and do what you have to do to make the squad, and hopefully, even if you don't make the squad, there's another team out there that's noticed you, because even though you may not make the Redskins team or whatever team you're trying out for, you're still trying out for the other 31 teams in the NFL.
Well, that's my question, and Jay, maybe you can chime in on this. Clearly, this is Santana's last Redskins contract. Is this Santana's last NFL contract? I mean, are these next couple of years it for him, or is he going to be one of those guys that tries to hang around way past his playing days? I mean, is he gearing up for that one last final run that we see out of veterans, or do you think he's still got some gas in the tank?
I would hope it's what you said, and it's the last run. He's definitely lost a couple of steps, but on the flip side, I'll go ahead and flip side it. The way he works, if he's dedicated and he's got his mind into the game like it seems like he has now, which I think was more Shanahan putting it in than RG3 or the Eddie Royal, because he lost a lot of weight and toned up a lot. You just don't do that in a week or so. So he was putting in a lot of work to get to this season. I know he's probably thinking, this quarterback, the team that they're assembling, is probably his last chance to really get after it.
Is it fair to say that Santana is a guy that has really only put in this type of work when he's had to prove something. I mean, he came in 2005 with the world against him. The Redskins traded Lavernius Coles to bring the guy here. Obviously, Coles was not happy in D.C. He wanted out. Gibbs agreed to facilitate the trade. Santana came in, and the immediate reaction was, wait, this guy's not a number one wide receiver. He's too small. He's only been a slot guy with the Jets. You can't base an offense around him. And then he was arguably the most explosive receiver in the NFL in 2005, him and Steve Smith. The Redskins make that playoff push. And then, he was good in 2006. I'm not saying that he's been bad the whole time that he's here, but I've not seen that intensity or that focus out of him that he had in 2005 until now. So is it safe to say that he's one of these guys that you've really got to keep motivated, or he's going to be out spending his time on other things, and this is finally him getting steered back in and directed to the direction he needs to go?
Well, let me flip that back on you, Ray. Let me ask you, since he's going off of that this year in the locker room and during practices, he's a lot more vocal than he's ever been. Why the sudden change in that? He's taking a leadership role.
I mean, I guess the window's closing. Like you said a few minutes ago, I mean, this could be his best shot. And Santana, I mean, I love Santana Moss. I love the guy when he was in Miami. But he's never struck me as a guy that's really ever cared a whole lot. You know what I mean? And I know the guys care and they play for pride and stuff, and we've seen Santana be upset and to say he's tired of losing and he's tired of seeing the team lose. But at the same time, just like you said, we've also not seen him until now with this. I mean, it's got to be more than pride. It's got to be that he feels like there's an opportunity to do something great here, and he's not felt that way before. That's my observation, that over the course of the last couple years, he hasn't felt like there's been a team around him that can win, so he's been able to kind of mail it in. And now it's time to roll. Is that fair? I mean, that's kind of what I'm seeing.
I would say so. I mean, I think Brunell's been his best quarterback, and that's not really saying a whole lot for the Redskins. That's pretty bad, actually. Yeah. I mean, you look at it, you would figure he had to at least know after the trade that we were going to end up with RG3 or at worst Andrew Luck. So either one of those, I would say that's what sparked him. And now he's taking on a leadership role. I think he's trying to help get everybody where they need to be. Talks a lot into RG3's ear. Never hurts to have the rookie on your side, though, either.
Yeah, well, and I'm not trying to dig up dirt here, but I never got the feeling, and Kyle, maybe you would even know about this, but I never got the feeling that Santana had a whole lot of trust in Jason when Jason was here. I mean, Santana, when Jason first took over, was still pretty freaking fast. And I remember Jason throwing deep balls to Santana that I'm thinking, why is Santana not getting to this ball? Why? How do you overthrow Santana Moss? And then the question is, well, is he quitting on these routes? Does he not think the ball is going to get there? He's never really had that relationship with Jason. And I can tell you from my own personal opinion, from what I've seen with my own eyes, he's already got pretty good chemistry with Griffin. I mean, they're talking each other up on the field, and Griffin's looking for the guy. Kyle, did you get that feeling with him and Jason Campbell? And Jay, am I making this up, or is that legit?
I mean, I'll let you take it, Jay, because I never really felt that way. I think there were times when Campbell would overthrow him, and I would more so say it was Campbell than Santana. I mean, there was that one game up in Philly in 2006. Granted, we did win the game, but Santana Moss, remember, he was wide open down the middle by at least 30 yards, and Campbell, under no pressure, overthrew him by at least 15. And I don't think it was Santana in those senses. I think it was just Campbell making, dumb mistakes. But there have been times where I've seen Moss give up on plays too. So,
I mean, the body language to me that I saw from Santana to Jason, I almost read it as, this guy, like that he didn't.
Yeah, you could see the disgust.
Yeah, he didn't have faith in him. in my opinion, and I don't know that there was ever anything there. I'm not saying Santana Moss hated Jason Campbell. I just don't think that Santana had any type of faith in him as a quarterback.
I mean, yeah, he liked Jason as a guy, as a friend or whatever. But out on the field, you could tell there was a lot of man moments. I think Kyle, you're hitting on a lot of it. Is through the years, having the quarterbacks that he has had, he just may have gotten run down and just, as you say, he quit there. And last year was just horrible. He was dropping balls, dropping touchdowns, throwing his helmet, and that just hadn't been Santana Moss like. I mean, he did have drops before, but nothing like he was doing last year.
But then why was he so vocal and taken up for Rex when Rex got benched? If that was...
Everybody likes Rex swagger. He has that where he won't. I mean, do you take him or do you? They had to back one of them, and they liked Rex. You like his personality. Beck, he had the arm, but as you've seen, he was afraid to throw the ball. What was it? Armstrong and Hankerson running down the field, and he wouldn't throw it. So I mean, the players wasn't really that excited when Beck got it. They didn't like it, so a lot of them lobbied for Rex to get it back. And remember, we did have a winning record when Rex was in there before they switched for Beck. It was more...
Agreed. It's just that whole... If there's one thing that looking back, we can kind of say, Mike, what were you doing? I mean, he pretty much tailor-made a rift in the locker room by not just sticking with one guy from the beginning. Is that fair to say? That... by making the guys choose between the two, and it kind of sets it up for dissension.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's not like Mike. That's not like Mike.
No. Yeah, to be honest, I would imagine he'd went the McNabb thing just blew up in our face, and that's why I tell a lot of people, we talk about the quarterbacks, and even did they give up too much for RG3? Well, I mean, who else are you going to get? I mean, we were real close to having Kyle Orton as a starting quarterback, if not. So, I don't know. He didn't have very many options. You're not going to trade for a Bradford or a Brady or a Rodgers. They're just not available like that. So he had to make do. But none of the quarterbacks, the way it was handled was ideal. Well, I mean, Beck looked good in practice. He looked good in some of the preseason, in the games. I think it looked like he could give you more than what he did. And when he first came in, he sparked the offense, but then the defenses started to touch him a little bit. And when they started touching him a little bit, he crumbled. And that's something Rex doesn't do. Like, he'll throw it regardless, but
yeah, he's just bad anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. He's going deep, as they say. He's going deep.
You got to feel bad for a guy like Moss. And, Moss holds a special place to me. I mean, you got the whole Santana Moss, Clinton Portis, Sean Taylor thing. The three of those guys. And when things got tough, those guys seemed to still play for each other. And I know that you knew some of those guys, Jay, and that you were close with them. I mean, is that fair to say? Fair to say that even when things were terrible in 2006, that those guys still had enough pride to try to play for each other. And then, when Clinton kind of took a step back, and then after what happened with Sean, maybe Moss just lost it. We hear about players getting burnt out and coaches getting burnt out. Maybe that's just all led to Moss having that burnout. No quarterback. Now the guys that he cared for so deeply were maybe not there or not having the same roles. I could understand how easy it is to get caught in that.
Yeah, I think he said it himself that he had lost the dedication and stuff for football. It was, like you said, just over years of it being the same thing or losing every year. I mean, after Gibbs left, they were right back at square one again. And then, of course, like you said, Clinton did fall off. Yeah, what happened to Sean? And then just no quarterback, no stability. The coaches kept changing for a while. I mean, we lost such a great coach in Coach Zorn there. But
I think too, and Kyle, I know you're going to jump all over this, but because of the respect that everybody has for Joe Gibbs, when he retired, it was kind of like, okay, this guy's earned the ability for us to just believe that, that's what he wanted to do, and whether we agree with it or not, we're just going to go with it because he's freaking Joe Gibbs. But when he walked away from this team after 2007, it pretty much destroyed the team. I mean, people can say that there was, I remember the calls for consistency, and, Gibbs was helping Snyder find a way to keep this team together and have some sort of continuity, I think was the buzzword in the 2007 or 2008 coaching search. But it rocked this team, and I will never forget the final game of the 2007 season against Dallas, where they had to win the game to go to the playoffs, and just seeing the fans embrace this team, and Rock Cartwright standing waving the towel, and Joe Gibbs shaking hands with everyone as he's leaving. This team had come together and had rallied around tragedy and had become more than a team. It was family. It was Redskins Nation had come together. And then Gibbs walks away a couple weeks later, and it was like all of that, in my mind, was immediately, it was gone. I mean, I remember looking at my dad and saying, the window just closed. It's over now. And we've not really ever had that conversation because of the respect for Gibbs. Is that the reason why we've had these struggles over the last couple years? Him walking away in the middle of what he was building and leaving veterans like Clinton Portis and Santana Moss in their prime to pretty much rot under confusion.
I don't believe so. I think, Gibbs, he's getting older. He set the team on the track back to success, or at least laid the foundation down. And, once he was gone, Vinny Serrato got, his GM president position back. And obviously we didn't hire Greg Williams as a head coach, which may look smarter now in retrospect. But at the time, we got Jim Zorn in, and it was basically the recipe for disaster. And everything that Gibbs helped lay down for the team just was ruined within, I would say, that offseason.
Yeah, but Jay, was it ruined because of the hole caused when Gibbs walked away? I mean, you had Clinton Portis in his prime. You had Santana Moss in his prime. London Fletcher. I mean, you had all these guys who were, they had that window open, and Gibbs walks away, and then there's no leadership. There's no continuity. Zorn has slip and slides and Disneyland training camps taking place. All this crazy stuff starts happening. We have bingo callers calling the plays. I mean, who's responsible for that? And we've never looked at Gibbs because of the respect. And I love Joe Gibbs. Is it fair to say that his retirement is what, really killed the careers of some of these guys?
I would say it does a little bit. I mean, it sucked a lot out of the team when he left. Joe did a lot of good for us. They did do a lot of bad contracts. I mean, Vinny was still there with Joe. Joe had a lot to say. Some of those contracts they entered into was horrible, still overpaying for guys. And then, right after he leaves, and then we go into the Albert Haynesworth and that kind of stuff. And like you said, with Zorn, it just snowballed with Joe leaving. But the roster wasn't in really great shape when he was there to begin, there towards the end anyway.
They were competitive. I mean, I know the stars aligned and they rallied together for the last couple games of the 2007 season. They got to the playoffs. They got to the playoffs with really no quarterback. They willed themselves there. You got to believe if Gibbs had it in him for another season, 2008 could have been a special year, especially after watching the Jim Zorn-led Joe Gibbs team go 6-2 to start 2008. I think it's fair to say that if you had a guy like Gibbs who could corral, and Gibbs could control Clinton Portis. Portis respected Gibbs and actually cared about what he had to say we wouldn't have been seeing these team meetings where Jim Zorn was having to apologize to Clinton in front of the team, or whatever that circus was. That stuff destroys a team. I think it would be a lot different if he'd have stayed around and finished his contract out. To be honest, that's just my personal opinion. Maybe I think too highly of Gibbs for what he's done, but I believe that we could have had another playoff run in 2008 and probably made some noise in the playoffs. And some of these guys who were in their primes could be looking at having very different careers. And I think that realization right there is got to weigh on Santana. It's got to.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, again, they were all heartbroken when Joe left. Jim, Santa at first he had some good games with Zorn, and then that got figured out, and it just went horrible. And again, I know we keep touching on, but that quarterback play, it was horrible, and it's been horrible, and now with RG3,
it's all changing. It's all changing. We've got that positivity back.
Yeah, I've said before, the O-line might not be as great as people want it, but they have a lot of depth all over this team. There's going to be a lot of camp battles for people to make this team.
There's a lot of young, hungry guys that are going to be pushing each other.
Yeah, you point at a position, and there's people there to battle. It's all over the place. The running backs, you can't go quarterback. They got a lot of young O-linemen that's coming in going to push for spots. It should be good. Again, the receivers, like we've touched on, cornerbacks, linebackers, they got a couple of young guys and a couple of vets like Groff's in there. A lot of people have forgot that he's even on the team. I'm really looking forward to training camp. Let's see what these guys got when they turn it on.
What do we got, like 20 days? No, 16 days. 16 days until training camp, man. Guys, I'm excited. We've been talking about Niles. Paul's excited. Jay Steele is excited. Even Kyle Maddox is a little bit excited. Right, Kyle?
Yeah, I'm kind of excited,
Kyle's so funny because Kyle likes to hate and act like this team's still going to be terrible and he's not going to get excited for him. No. But Jay, let's be honest with you. Did Kyle show you the two RG3 McFarlanes that he's already bought, and he's probably got a RG3 jersey on order?
I already told you I didn't buy it.
He's got these things on pre-order waiting for them to drop. The day they come out, they're going to be sitting in his mailbox. So I'm not going to lie. I got them too. So there's just a whole different vibe from what we've seen in the last couple of years. It's exciting for Redskins fans. I'm excited. We're all excited. Can't wait for camp to get going here in about 2.5 weeks. Jay, appreciate you coming on, man. Appreciate you spending some time talking old football and new football. And, man, keep in contact with us. We'll have you on here as we get closer to camp. Okay, buddy?
Oh, not a problem. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, man. You've been listening to Son of Washington podcast here on sonofwashington.com. Keep it with us next week. We will be back on our regular schedule from here on out through the rest of the season. So keep it here, man. You guys have a good one.